Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the very last breath leaving your body. What happens in that precise instant? Where does your soul travel in those first moments after your heart stops beating? You might think you know the answer, heaven or hell, right? But what if I told you there's a third place, a hidden realm that half of Christianity whispers about in shadows while the other half screams it's a dangerous lie? Right now, as you're watching this, there are over 1 billion Catholics who believe your soul might not go directly to heaven. They believe there's a waiting room, a place of purification where souls burn, not in hell, but in preparation for paradise. Yet millions of Protestants would tell you this is the most dangerous deception ever created by human minds. This isn't just theology. This is about your eternal destiny. This is about what happens to you, to your loved ones, in the moment everything ends. And the truth? It's been hidden in plain sight for over 500 years. If this mystery is already stirring something deep within your spirit, hit that subscribe button. Because what you're about to discover will challenge everything you thought you knew about eternity. Picture this. It's the 12th century. Monks in dark monasteries are receiving visions, not from angels, but from souls trapped between worlds. They speak of fires that don't destroy but transform, of pain that purifies rather than punishes. These aren't nightmares, these are revelations that would reshape Christianity forever. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. The Catholic Church didn't just discover purgatory, they constructed it. Layer by layer, prayer by prayer, they built an entire theology around the idea that love doesn't end at death, that God's mercy extends beyond the grave. They believed that most souls, even the saved ones, aren't pure enough for heaven's perfection. So God, in His infinite love, created a place of final preparation. Think about it. Doesn't this make perfect sense? How many of us die completely pure, completely ready for the presence of the Almighty? The Catholics saw this as God's ultimate act of compassion, giving souls one final chance to burn away everything that isn't love. But the Protestants? They saw something entirely different. They saw a system that could be exploited, a doctrine that turned God's free grace into a commodity to be bought and sold. They saw fear being weaponized, hope being commercialized. Now let me take you on a journey through Scripture that will blow your mind. You've probably read these verses dozens of times without realizing they hold the key to this entire mystery. Paul speaks of being caught up to the third heaven. Third heaven? What are the first two? Then there's his mysterious mention of the spirits in prison that Christ visited between his death and resurrection. Prison? What prison? Where? But here's the verse that will make you stop in your tracks. If anyone builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, or straw, their work will be shown for what it is. If it is burned up, the builder will suffer loss, but yet will be saved, even though only as one escaping through the flames. Read that again. Saved, but through flames. Not the flames of hell, those destroy, these flames purify. These flames save. The Catholics read this and see purgatory spelled out in black and white. The Protestants read the same words and see something entirely different. They see the refining fire of God's judgment at the moment of death, instantaneous purification, not prolonged suffering. But what if they're both seeing fragments of a truth too large for human comprehension? Here's something that might shake you to your core. Right now, somewhere in the world, a Catholic is lighting a candle and praying for your grandmother's soul. They believe their prayers can actually help her, even though she died years ago. They believe love transcends death, that the communion of saints is real, that your prayers have power in realms beyond this world. The Protestant looks at this same act and sees either beautiful but misguided sentimentality or dangerous heresy. They believe that once you die, your fate is sealed. prayer for the dead becomes meaningless because the dead are already where they're going to be for eternity. But think about this for a moment. Which view honors love more? The belief that love ends at the grave, or the belief that love continues beyond death? The Catholic prays for the dead because they believe love is eternal, that the bonds we form here echo in eternity. The Protestant honors the dead by trusting that God's grace was sufficient in life, that their salvation was secure before they drew their final breath. Both perspectives emerge from love. Both emerge from faith. Both emerge from a desperate desire to honor God and those we've lost. Enter Martin Luther, a man tormented by his own unworthiness, haunted by the fear that he could never be good enough for heaven. He lived in a world where purgatory wasn't just a doctrine, it was an industry. People sold years off purgatory. Families bankrupted themselves buying their loved ones out of purifying flames. The sacred had become profane, the holy had become commercial. Luther's revolution wasn't just theological, it was deeply personal. He looked at the system of purgatory and saw his own deepest fears reflected back at him. What if God's love isn't enough? What if there's always more suffering required? What if grace isn't really free? So he did something unthinkable. He declared that the moment you believe, the moment you accept Christ, you are completely justified, not partially, not progressively, completely. Heaven isn't something you become worthy of, and it's something you're given. But here's the twist that history often misses. Luther didn't originally want to destroy purgatory. He wanted to purify it, to remove the commercial exploitation while preserving the beautiful idea that God's love extends beyond death. It was only when the Catholic Church refused to reform that Luther was forced to choose between the doctrine and the gospel as he understood it. Fast forward to today, and the battle still rages. But something beautiful has emerged from centuries of conflict. Both sides have been refined by their disagreement. Catholics have cleaned up the abuses Luther protested against. Protestants have developed a deeper appreciation for the mystery of salvation. Modern Catholic theology speaks of purgatory less as a place of punishment and more as a final encounter with God's transforming love. It's not about paying debts. It's about becoming capable of receiving infinite love. Think of it as the final healing of the soul, the last gentle burning away of everything that would make heaven painful rather than blissful. Modern Protestant theology has developed rich understandings of sanctification, the process by which God makes us holy. They may not call it purgatory, but they acknowledge that becoming like Christ is a process, not an event. Here's what might shock you. Maybe they're not as far apart as they think. Maybe one tradition emphasizes God's work in us before death, while the other emphasizes God's work in us at the moment of death. Maybe both are describing the same divine love working in different dimensions of time and eternity. But here's what I want you to understand as we reach the heart of this mystery. Whether purgatory exists or not, whether your purification happens in this life or the next, one truth remains constant. God's love for you is relentless, unstoppable, and transforming. Right now, in this moment, as you're processing these ancient arguments and modern implications, the same divine love that might work through purgatory's fires is working in your heart. The same grace that justifies in an instant is the grace that sanctifies over a lifetime. You don't have to solve the mystery of purgatory to experience the reality of God's transforming presence. You don't have to choose sides in a 500-year-old debate to step into the truth that you are beloved, that you are being made new, that your story doesn't end with death but begins again in ways beyond imagination. The Catholics light their candles and pray for the dead because they believe love is eternal. The Protestants trust in grace alone because they believe God's love is sufficient. Both are responding to the same magnificent truth, that you matter to God, that your destiny is glorious, that death is not the end but a doorway. And perhaps that's the real secret that's been hidden in plain sight all along. Not the geography of the afterlife, but the topology of divine love. Not the mechanics of salvation, but the mystery of being chosen, cherished, and transformed by the one who calls you by name.